It's Matt Santacapita from the Santa Sells Houses team, and today we've got Joe Budget Boss in. We're going to talk turkey.
Turkey.
Financial turkey.
We got 2 weeks till turkey
I guess,
comes, yeah.
Gobble gobble's coming
it's
up,
October
right?
1st. That works. So
I want to jump into what I think is a hot topic that nobody talks about. Let's just go right into it. Negative interest rates on mortgages in Denmark.
So I heard the blurb about it, and then you mentioned you'd be talking about it, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I got to look into this a bit more.
Because that's
funky.
never happened in North America.
No.
Like, that's not
And in my opinion, it never will.
No, I don't think it ever will.
It's not. I don't think it's viable here. And I'm trying to think, what would make a bank do that, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what would make the bank do that? Because I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, because they do make money off these mortgages, from what I gather, but it's sort of like fee based, like
I'm assuming
a
that's
service fee type thing, right?
So they would make a fee off writing the mortgage. They're happy just making that fee. But is it really the banks that would have allowed it to happen, or would it have been the governments pushing for it, saying, okay, we need, but like, okay, what's your take?
Well, I mean,
why would like, okay, I'm the government of Denmark. Okay, Joe Budget Boss, lender. We want negative interest rates on mortgages. Like, what? Like,
so you got? I just like equate it to what we got going on here, and I'm like, okay, so why would they do that? And I think you agree with me. We would never do that.
I don't think it would
ever happen
no.
here. So what's different about here and there then, right? So I'm thinking, like, okay, Denmark. The article I read had a bit about England in it, where England had some negative interest rate or even zero interest rate situations. And in my opinion, I think it's just because of stagnation.
Yeah.
Just they need movement, or possibly that there's not enough people possibly buying homes, or something along those lines, where
or cash is just sitting idle.
It's just
idle cash doesn't help anybody.
I just think old money when I hear something like that. I think old money that's just parked.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, well, if
and for growth in an economy, you need here's a bag of cash. I need to give it to you. You need to do something with it. Then you go there and like that's like
for sure. Like
economies to go.
Look at the transaction of buying a home. I mean, you deal with that all the time, but that's part of my industry too. You buy a home. Well, you're the realtor. You sell me a home. Insurance guy comes. I get insurance on that home.
Yep.
Realtor got paid. Mortgage broker got paid. Lender got paid.
Not just I mean, yeah, like
I got paid for selling the insurance, right? So think of that. If that's not happening much over there, then that would be a huge.
Yeah. So in London, I know Elstar, so the London St. Thomas Association of Realtors, they always add this little blurb when their stat packs go out monthly. Every home sale that occurs in London generates, I think it's $48,000 of spending in the economy.
For sure. So
let's just, I guess
that's probably conservative.
I mean, it could be. I've never dug into, okay, how did you get 48,000? I mean, probably came from Stats Canada or something like that, right? But so I guess that's what you see is that, I mean, Denmark saying, okay, like guys, like we've just been flat. Our economy's blah, maybe. I honestly don't know. I didn't bother looking at it. The second I heard, I'm like, negative interest rates on mortgages. Okay.
Very odd. And in my mind, I don't think of Denmark as a spot where a big bastion of growth where
it's not a U.S. economy.
Yeah. Or like
or even China's
lots
economy.
of immigrants are flocking to it. I think more of what's happened in Europe and sort of the Scandinavian countries is more of the migrant crisis comes in, and that they're not coming in and buying massive houses.
Yeah.
They need their help or whatever, but they're coming in and it's not stimulating the economy. In fact, you could call it a drain on the economy at first. It might turn out to be lucrative later, right? But right now it would be a drain. So now you're looking, okay, if our people aren't selling or buying homes or moving around or creating these sort of transactional economy, what are we going to do for this, right?
Yeah. So you force it. It's just an attempt at forcing
we see that right now in our economy, right?
Stimulation versus... Instead of doing, I guess you could just say, is it a form of quantitative easing is how they're looking at it then?
Yeah. And it would be...
Instead of just, here, bank, here's money, they're now just saying, okay, well, tell you what, like, let's just make people want to take the money. So here, take my $1 million and give me, 0.5% less.
I mean, you know, like banks aren't in it to lose money, so they're making money somehow.
And the fees, they always make money. Yeah.
But it's odd. It's very, very odd, and I don't see that. I just don't see how that would be possible given our economic situation here. We're always doing, even in bad times, we're always doing fairly well.
Yes.
I mean, it could slow down, but it doesn't really stall to
so
like
then,
a zero, you know?
Okay, we've talked a little bit about negative interest rates on mortgages in Denmark. Mm-hmm. North America's on dirt cheap money for a decade now.
Yep.
And it all kind of is this big issue of insanely low interest rates, mm-hmm. which typically, don't get me wrong, like if you're buying a home, there's a pro there. Your payment's less, mm-hmm. right? But the flip side, if you're a pensioner and you are hoping to earn a return with your money, well, mm-hmm. like when you have insanely low interest rates, that
it affects your guaranteed
suffers.
Money. Yep.
Do we ever get out of low interest rates, or is this just the new norm? Like, I don't, you hear when you talk with baby boomers mm-hmm. and
I mean, my parents, for instance, their first mortgage,
like,
right?
We used to have 24% interest rates. And they're like, but you could buy a brand new car for $3,000.
Well, not only that, your guaranteed investments were pulling in 10% too, right?
And it's, but not just that, but it's also wages. We're seeing the same inflationary pressure.
Yes.
Like, and sure, does it sound interesting? Like, could you imagine buying a mutual fund and getting 24%? Like, yeah. I mean, I actually have mutual fund statements from when I was insanely young, and my mm-hmm. dad used to make me go across the road mm-hmm. to, I believe it was, it wasn't RBC, but it was whatever the RBC
Dominion Securities.
Yep. And like that's, no, you invest your money, and mm-hmm. but it's like that's not that those times are gone as far as I'm concerned. We're not going to see 20 some odd %.
No,
but. Do we ever come out of a low, interest rate? Like right now you can get, let's just talk housing, because that's what people I think understand a mortgage payment and interest, mm-hmm. 3-ish%, give or take, half mm-hmm. a point up or down, whatever. Do we ever see 6 or 7? Does that ever come back?
I think the big part of it has to do with the government in that situation because of the level of debt that we're sitting in as a society, and not just us. I mean, obviously, America's everyone, all first world countries, right? So what we've come to is a crux where we have certain demands on our governments, and call it waste, call it whatever you're going to call it. Either way, they can't afford to meet these obligations that we've imposed as a society on our governments. We pay a lot of taxes in this country, but we also ask for a lot. Too. We get a lot out of it, right? Now, given that, though, you're running deficits. There's only two ways. Either you can't afford to do what you're doing or you're mismanaging the money, right? So if that just continues and continues, the only way you can stimulate the economy is with low interest rates. Otherwise, people just lock up their money, and now you got Denmark, right? So what do we do, right? So I don't see...
So how does it change then? Because, I mean, here, like... Do we go another 10 years like this? I'm just like, could we? I don't know.
We could, maybe. Probably, right? But ultimately, though, money has to be raised. I mean, when you look at those times back then, the deficits weren't, or the debt that the country held wasn't that much, right?
Yeah.
Now we're looking at it every year. It's just through the roof. So how you got to get to the root of the problem, which is paying that off, which is never going to happen, in my opinion. I mean, so it's just not going to happen.
What is the, as a country, what's the debt level of Canada?
Off the top of my head,
like
we're in the billions.
We're like,
it's not trillion.
But no, it's not. We're not a trillion. Is it like 600, 700 billion?
Yeah, I think last I saw it was like 5. What we got there?
What do we have?
2.2, 700. Yeah. So 5 was the last time I stopped paying attention.
Yeah, because it's pissing me off. Well, just the numbers are so big.
Well, they're fictitious.
You're just like, so we're just over 37 million people.
Yes.
So we're 37 million people.
Yes.
We owe other countries, banks, like, even just Canadians.
Canadians, their pensions are owed, their CVPs owed. Like these are obligations.
So, it's really, when you look at it, like, it's kind of, I mean, you can't help but laugh, because you're just like, seriously, that would be the equivalent of probably me personally just having, as a random everyday human being, $5 million debt.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and not like I have a mortgage debt. Mm-hmm. That to me is like, just like, no, man, that's just like a line of credit.
Yeah,
I went and bought a lot of t-shirts and jeans.
Yeah.
And so like, but
how do they get out of it? They can't get out. It's impossible. And I don't even think it's...
And like, I mean, the thing is...
I don't think they want to.
Is that what you think's going on?
I don't think they want to. There's too many people that make money off that money. Think about it. It's the skim. You've seen Casino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the skim.
So it's just there, if you look at all the people who are holding the debt for, call it 800
Let's just say
billion.
ABC Bank owns $1 billion.
They just want their trailer of, X percent.
But think about it. If it never gets paid, it doesn't matter. 100 years later, you've made it 10 times over.
Yeah, but at some point, it breaks the back of the economy. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I agree. I agree. When, though?
But yeah, I mean, crystal ball.
Yeah. Right? There's just too much at stake. Too many rich bankers making money off that for me to think like that would ever change.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a quick example. So I knew a Superior Court justice, so he's a crown prosecutor, and then he became a justice of the peace. So became a justice of the peace, and this is my bartending days. I served him. He's a great guy. But he got this budget. So he has, I think it was like $13,000. You can get technology with it. And this was back 15 years ago, so he wasn't buying like fancy laptops. Yeah. And he's an old school dude.
Yeah.
But it's like
he
pens,
was buying
papers,
like a 486 Epson.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Like a printer and like get your secretary this or whatever. So his first year as the justice of the peace came in under budget, $10,000.
Yeah.
Pull him in the office, say, what are you doing? We give you $13,000 budget. You're supposed to spend 15.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to ask for more next year?
Yeah.
Right? So what is in place that makes that the situation? There's people gaining from that.
Now, well, it probably keeps that person employed who says, by the way, here's your $13,000.
Exactly. But at the same time, again, who's paying for that?
Do something else.
Yeah. I don't know. He was like proud of himself.
Well,
he's like, I came in under budget.
We
They're
don't
gonna
need
love
it.
Me.
We don't, like why?
Yeah. I have 80 boxes of pens. I don't need any more, right?
Like, we're just going to throw them out?
No, you take your computer and you burn it.
Well, now we're in climate change issues.
Exactly.
Like, no, it's stupidity. So is that
this
it?
is what we're dealing with.
So is there just, I mean, are we looking at this as a big snowball effect of, just call it maybe moronic policy on whatever political side? Because like everybody's to blame in this. It doesn't matter.
Well, there's been multiple different governments since all this crap started going down.
And they all
it's
do
not
the same
like
thing.
One. Yeah.
They all really just do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, all right.
Yeah, no, I don't see, unless you really start attacking the upper echelon multinational companies for that money.
But then they leave.
But then they're gone.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. So it's, what are you going to do? You're going to go tell Apple to leave Isle of Man? Like, no.
Yeah.
You're going to tell Canadians, oh, you can't get an iPhone now because we're trying to punish them? Canadians, I want my friggin' iPhone.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I mean, part of what I deal with in my job is a lot of people are like, they get pissed off at the government, but our financial houses aren't in order either. Like the average Canadian has a shit ton of debt too. Sorry.
Well, we've never had more.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Right.
Like the individual debt.
But we don't.
But we ask our government not to incur debts, but we live that life, right? So
I don't know though. I don't think we don't. I don't think anybody's out there saying, "Okay, Canadian government, stop spending, rein this in." I mean, politically, you know what I mean?
It's a catchphrase that people will say. Yeah.
But it's like, we're not sitting around our dinner tables saying like, "Gosh darn it!" like, we overspent by $20 billion. That. We're approaching 800. Like
numb factor.
It's not. Like everyone's just like, we don't understand it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, you get into the billies out in left field.
Yeah.
Because it's just like really like, could you imagine?
It's just a big number on a piece of paper. I don't get it.
Could you imagine a pile of cash, $8 billion big? Like, I don't even know. Is that Mount Everest? Is that room. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, it's such a bloody big number that. And then now, like, in all honesty, like, I worry. I've got kids. And this is weird. I think when you become a parent, when they're young, I think once they become, like, 20-ish, I think these worries go. But, like, as a parent, you do sit there, and at least I do, and I'm just like, what kind of disaster are we maybe making for these kids?
Yeah. And I think ultimately the big thing about it, and what I try and teach people is you gotta look out for.
Yeah, you just worry about yourself.
Yeah, you gotta essentially, right? And that sounds sounds cold, right? But ultimately, the big thing about it is that I think if everyone actually took an active approach of looking after themselves, we'd all be better.
Yeah.
It's just because people don't. It's not like, okay, I want your house, so I kill you and take your house. Yeah. That's not looking after myself. No,
that doesn't lead
make
to
my
any
life better,
save
society. Money, all that crap, right? Yeah. So ultimately, the thing is, I don't. Again, with the kids aspect of it, it's like you said, it's beyond me. I can't. These numbers, I can't even fathom, and how to attack that problem.
Okay, so then, as an individual, what should somebody be doing with their with their finances? Call it.
The biggest thing is just spend less than you make. Honestly, that sounds so simple. It sounds like, okay, well, Joe, you're a rocket scientist. Like, no,
but
it's true. Like, you can't, just start doing this program about retirement planning. And first step is budget. You got to come in under budget. You have to. It's not even a situation where it's negotiable. It's if you're not creating a surplus, you're not doing things in life that you need to be doing. Yeah. I.e., buying a home. Right? Yep. That house, like, if you think of the macro level, like, when does this big thing called Canada end because of this debt, or America, or whatever, Western world? When does that little thing called Joe Francis's house end because of debt? Because that's going to happen much quicker than the other one. Yeah. Because people will write them blank checks.
Well, yeah.
People won't write us blank checks for the rest of their lives. So ultimately, you gotta stick to coming in under budget every month and develop that surplus. You have to do it because that's going to allow you to save, invest, protect your money. You can diversify, get into real estate, stuff like that. But what are you going to do if you don't have the down? Well, I can't afford the down payment. Yeah, it's tough to come up with your first 50 grand or 30 grand or whatever, but you're not going to get it by spending more than you make every month. It just doesn't happen.
I was reading something, and maybe it was something that you posted on Facebook or Insta. I can't remember. But it wasn't... Everybody's game that they always look at is make more money, make more money, make more money. And that's actually the trap. Because a millionaire has this... Somebody who makes $1 million a year, generally speaking, has the same problems that somebody has making $40,000.
I see it first.
They're just amplified.
Yeah, it's just extra
because the millionaire goes and buys a Lambo and a private jet and an island, and it's just, and again, it's just we're all conditioned to, I guess, live outside of our means. Yep. It's about
lifestyle creep.
Yeah,
it's just right up there, right? So I mean, ultimately,
to the average person, let's say, or the average Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
How should they be looking at this?
Well,
should they be dissecting their budget? What should they do?
I mean, you get down to sort of a base root of expenses that we all have. I mean, we know how much rent costs if you're renting in the city. We know how much mortgages are roughly for certain thresholds of housing.
Yep.
Once you get yourself down to a base level of expenses, you can't really go lower.
Yep.
Right? You need to eat, you need this, you need that. You're going to be running X amount per month. If you can't get above that threshold, or you're not anywhere near above that threshold, then making more money is the only logical explanation.
Yeah.
As you get beyond that threshold, though, it should be a priority to stack away at least 15% of your income per month.
So now, that should be people's goal is 15%.
And if you cannot afford that, then you need to make more money. And that's the X factor. Okay, fair enough. You might not be able to afford that. So there's only two ways to come up with that money. If you can't afford it, you got to trim expenses or make more money.
So
it's not that difficult.
Stop going out and eating 10 times a week.
Yeah.
Explore.
Don't come home to an Amazon package every day. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, right?
And $25 watch does the same function as a $2,000 watch.
Yep.
That kind of, I guess, philosophy.
Forever 21's closed. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I have no idea. Well,
I think it is a good thing, actually, and not in terms of jobs and whatnot, but I think a lot of frivolous spending happened there, right? I mean,
really? Yeah, I honestly have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah,
it's tough, right?
I don't shop that way.
No, you look like a bit of a fashionista.
No, I can't stand shopping.
No, I hate it too. I'm in and out.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't do well. My heart rate increases. Bad things happen.
Yeah, I go to the mall maybe once a year tops.
But
I mean, ultimately, that's the X factor. I mean, the math is the math, and it's not, it's literally grade 2 math.
Yep.
Add, subtract, negative, need more. Okay.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, you say it's grade 2 math. It is, but really only up until recently have they decided to put, this whole concept of understanding personal financials into the school system. where could somebody go to wrap their head around this a little bit more? Where it's like, okay, great, Joe Budget Boss, you're telling me trim my expenses, but I find most people need to be able to go and read something or source something to give them ideas and get the hamster running, right? So where can somebody go to like start to, I guess, self-educate themselves a little bit more about this?
I mean, you're all over the socials, so am I. I mean, every day I'm just seeing, like, I'm not a minimalist per se. I don't like having a lot of crap, but ultimately I'm not the kind of guy who has like one cup, one fork, and, you know, sitting on the ground like a monk eating my bowl of rice or whatever, right? I think there's so much information out there, people all over IG, Facebook, sharing their tips but how do you know if you're getting good info? Because that's one problem right now too with the internet, right? Yeah. I mean, ultimately, when stuff gets confusing, generally it's not good info. If it makes sense.
That's an interesting idea.
And in my industry, that's very prevalent. People try to confuse you.
Well, the last financial collapse came from a whole pile of garbage that nobody could
people
understand.
Stapling mortgages to garbage, nuclear waste.
So I guess really, when
it gets confusing, then now the reason things get, and again, this is very prevalent in my industry, the reason things get confusing is because there's someone in the background making money off your confusion. That's it. That's all there is to it.
So it's almost just kind of like the keep it simple, stupid philosophy.
And I mean, ultimately, I follow 30 plus financial gurus on the daily sharing their stuff. I mean,
so who are some of your favorites then?
Like I love Dave Ramsey. Yeah. I mean, he gets a little, Jesus-y a bit.
It's a little Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, it gets a little Dave Ramsey-ish. But I mean, when you're in that position, you can tell people, shut up and listen to me, right?
Yeah.
But his whole family, his whole crew, like the Dave Ramsey family, not necessarily his daughter, Rachel Cruz is smart too, but Dave Ramsey family's good. Robert Kiyosaki, I like him.
I was at an event out in
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
In California where he's the keynote. He's an interesting dude.
He's a funky dude, really funky dude. He's kind of out in left field.
He's a bit on the fringe of some stuff, which whatever, cool. I think he's got very interesting perspectives on things.
I also, my big one is and now she's took a little bit of a political tinge, which is kind of rubbing me the wrong way, even though I'm a very political guy. I don't go to her for my politics. Gail Vos Oxlade, Canadian, and she's really, really awesome. But
what's her stick? I don't know who. I have no idea who she is.
She had the show Till Death Do Us Part. It was on the Slice Network, and then this one called Princess, where it's like young girls who were all entitled, spoiled, and trying to get them to change their ways. But this one's Till Death Do Us Part was married couples that are basically breaking up because their finances suck, right?
So divorce, isn't it like 50% of divorces are caused from literally financial stress or something like that?
50% of marriages end in divorce. 75% of them are due to financial stress.
Okay, so
you got to figure 30% of all marriages will end because of finances.
Yeah.
Right? All marriages, even the ones that succeed.
Yeah.
Right? So, all. Right? So that's pretty scary stuff. And I mean,
that's messed up actually right?
But think about it. What are the greatest stressors anyone has? The greatest stressors I've ever had in my life have been finance.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've had health problems and navigated through those, right? You do what you got to do, but when finances, sometimes it's just
I think, right? and I've talked a little bit about it. I don't talk too much about it, but you just think for like the average person, right? Like if you're like a Mark Zuckerberg and you got the Billy, like you're very different, but like the average person, if your home is paid off, and I think the financial investment industry does a weird job at navigating the whole conversation of if your home's paid off. Because the argument that, again, like most financial advisors will say, wow, mortgage rates are super low. They're like 3%. And if the market could get you 8, you shouldn't be paying off your house. You should go there. Okay, I get the basics of that. But if the average person's home was paid off, I think they would be a healthier human being. And I don't think enough conversation is had around that. And the reason why I'm bringing this up more and more is with an aging demographic, baby boomers starting to really move into retirement, a lot of them still have debt on their homes.
Taking mortgages with them.
Yes.
And
that's not what you want to do when you retire. You want all that gone.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you still have your lease payment to the city, and it's called property taxes.
Yeah, you still have utilities. You still have your car. You're going to, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, get rid of your car? I mean, ultimately.
You buy an electric car, and you put solar panels on your house, and you drive for free.
True.
That's my retirement plan, baby.
Yeah, but who put those wheels in motion? Did you put that in, like the day before you retire? Are you going to start that?
I put that in motion 4 years ago.
Exactly,
right?
And
I mean, I still have a lot of time
My
left.
7-step retirement system that I've developed, step 3 is housing. People really need to understand housing.
Right,
and
so
that mortgage payment's got to be gone.
Back up here. So you've got a 7-step retire. Say
7-step relevant retirement
system.
Retirement relevant.
Take me through it.
Okay.
Like step 1 to 7.
Step 1 is the budget. And that's, we've talked about that a little bit already. So it's basically get under budget, create the surplus. You need the surplus.
Yeah.
Because if you have.
Act like a business.
Exactly. Step 2 is debt. You need step 1, the budget. If you have debt, you need this surplus to pay off the debt and then do other things later. But at first, if you can't get under budget, you can't pay off debt.
Yeah.
If you can't get under budget, you can't save. So step 3, though, this is where you're talking about is housing. You have to really, really, really understand housing and how it incorporates into your retirement plan. And that includes paying off your home. Yep. And you're absolutely right. Now, this whole thing, and I hear it all the time from people in my industry, it's like, oh, well, I'm getting 12% on my investments. I'm getting... But
are you really, though?
That's the thing. Not every year. I mean, even if the historical stock market average, you're looking at anywhere from, 7 to 9%.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Great. But at the same time, though, artificially low interest rates, we discussed this before the cameras went, will they stay there forever? Right?
Yeah. But they're going to go up. They're not going to go to 20%.
Peace of mind, though, right? Yeah. The peace of mind of having that. And think about the extra money. Like, if you're making mortgage-sized investment payments every month, like, you don't have a mortgage. Now you're taking that 12 hundo or whatever it is. Sorry. Where you're taking that 12 hundo and you're putting into an investment. Now you're really making some moves. But the big difference between the 12 hundo that you're putting into the investment and the 12 hundo you're putting into your mortgage is that mortgage is due. That investment's not due. Mm-hmm. So if something happens and you have to not put the money in the investment, you're okay because you got a place to live. But if you're, like you said, I have clients that are carrying mortgages into retirement. I mean, I make a pension. I'm like, yeah, but wouldn't you rather have the whole $4,000 instead of $1,500 of it going to the mortgage?
Yeah.
So you're going to take your first 10 years of retirement and, you know what I mean?
So okay, let's talk about housing a little bit more then. At what age do you think then somebody should start thinking about moving into the retirement home or the final home?
Okay.
Or I call it the pine box home.
Oh, okay. So basically, so the long-term...
Yeah.
Your last place, long-term care. Should it be
literally, we're retiring next year, let's do it now?
No.
Or should, okay.
No. It's just when mobility stops.
Okay.
I mean, my grandmother's 85. She still lives in her home, right? Now her mobility is pretty
One floor home, though?
No, multiple floors.
Okay.
Multiple floors. But she has the chair thingy.
Yeah.
She had double knee surgery about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, stubborn Portuguese lady. So
she's going to be due for another one soon then, if they give it to her.
Yeah.
She might have to go in and get all old school
cleaned
European
up,
angry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
My grandmother had to do that before she passed away a few years
Greek,
ago.
Right?
No, Italian.
Oh, Italian. Okay.
But she yelled at her doctor.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're too old. And it's like, I don't care what you think.
I'm not planning on dying.
I'm not planning on dying. I want to move around. Like, you're giving me my damn knee.
So what I'm going to do, crawl around for the next 5-10 years, right? So
I think that's the one thing where healthcare is a little weird is like age, like, because then really, like, if you think about it, what are you then also doing to that individual? Like, you're then putting them in a mental state.
You're condemning them to death, essentially.
Feeling useless.
Yeah.
Like, okay, why don't we just put all the old people on canoes and send them out into the ocean and just see what the hell happens?
At that
point, it just doesn't make sense. Like,
I fully believe that when you get to a certain age, if your mental well-being is not in place, you lose the will to live.
Yep.
Right? So if you're 80, 90 years old and you're not you don't feel love from people and you're isolated or you're physically, people lose the will to live. And I believe in that, right? So I agree with you. Yeah, demand the knee. Give me my damn knee.
Yeah, give me my knee.
Give me my knee,
the system.
Right? Exactly, right? 10 times over. But the housing side of it, like the big thing is
don't move, stay in the house. Like, that's it. Just don't.
No.
Okay.
Pay off the home because that's your transition piece to be able to pay for the long-term care.
Yeah.
That's what people think, oh, my house is worth, $600,000 and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you're going to maybe one day have to pay $4,000 a month to live in a home.
Yeah.
Now, who's going to come up with that?
Yeah.
If your house isn't paid off.
See, that creeps me out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, so my wife and I, when we built our home, and again, like, this is like a bit of you probably understand this too. You have a European background. It's kind of like a bit of the old school European background in me. I mean, I detest moving. I just can't stand the disruption. So that's, it's chaos.
It's very odd for a realtor, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It is. But I want it. Here's the thing. Do I really want to worry about me moving or do I want to worry about servicing my clients? I don't want the disruption because I want to service my clients. But anyways, so we built a 1-floor home because literally, like, we are planners. We plan out like 50 years out, which is very bizarre.
Very, yeah. Especially for a realtor again.
Again, for a realtor, it's very different.
Again, yeah. Just from the ones I know, though.
Age, from an age demographic standpoint, it's also very different.
Yep.
But it was when we built this home, this is our pine box home. I'm not moving every 5 years. I have zero interest. I want my little piece of paradise, and you got to build it over time. I'm a big believer in that. But our home was set up in a way because I have seen my grandparents in positions where they did need assisted living type facilities and things like that. But our home was built in a way where if, God forbid, something happens to one of my parents or one of my wife's parents, that we have the ability in the setup where we can say, no, like, if you want, I mean, you can't force it on somebody, but if you want, why don't you come in, move in with us,
stay with us,
and we'll help. Like, which you're starting to see that swing back to like older generations kind of coming back into the home. Like, and that's normal. I think, I feel like that's normal being European, because that's kind of what happens. Our parents take care of us for probably arguably the first 20 years of our lives right now. Yeah. And it's like, okay,
depending on what it could be 30.
Could be, yeah. Like, I mean, right. But it's like
Greek male.
But it's just, it's one of those things, right? Where it's like, and I was going to say, like, you kind of owe it to them. And it's not that you owe it to them. It's just like there's a human aspect there.
For sure.
Now, granted, some people end up needing, I mean, if somebody has dementia, let's just say as an example, I mean, okay, I would not be equipped to take.
They need constant care.
You need constant care. Yeah. So, I mean, like, but it's like, if you don't need constant care and you can live, like, why wouldn't you? Right? Like, and again, like,
to me,
it sounds weird, but like,
no, I agree. It just, I'm trying to get in the mind of someone that would not be that way, and I can't really conceptualize it.
But it's this weird, I think it's like an Italian, a Portuguese, a Greek, like maybe a more Mediterranean way of thinking, and that could be completely off base. I have no idea, but.
Well, my grandma lives alone, but at the same time, 3 to 4 family members come every day.
Yeah.
Grandkid, kid.
Yeah, it's everybody stopping in to say hi.
In-laws, like, my mom is not her daughter, but she's there 3-4 times a week, picking her up or doing whatever, right? My grandma never learned to drive.
Yeah,
right?
Well, she might as well just move in with your parents then, right?
Like, that's point, how I look at it.
Like, but she doesn't want to because giving up her freedom.
Yep. But giving up her freedom, and it's not a point where she needs constant care.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we can rabbit hole down this for a million years.
Yeah,
let's move on. So
step 3, housing.
Step 3 was housing. So step 4,
insurance. You got to protect what you have. I mean, ultimately, the biggest thing, and I'm in the insurance industry, but the one big X factor is insurance has such a bad connotation on it because of the sleazy salesman aspect of it.
Well, and most people look at it and they just think, why would I buy, like, life insurance, for instance? Why would I buy something that I don't benefit, or when I do benefit, I'm dead? Well, do you care about your husband, your wife, your kids?
Staying in the home. I've seen both sides of it, where someone doesn't have it and it devastates a family, or someone does have it and it saves a family. No one gets rich from insurance. No. You only get rich from insurance if it's like your great uncle and he's just trying to, leave a ton of money to someone, right? But like,
which some people do,
which they do, and
some people
those
do that.
I love people like that. I help them get those policies, but the average person is get the most coverage for the cheapest price. And that's contrary to a lot of people in my industry because we're on commission, right? So for us, it's like, okay, I sell you a policy that costs you $25 a month, but adequately covers your family. I'm not making much money off that, but on the flip side, if it was 125, I'd make 5x, right? So step 4, cover everything as cheap as possible. And that includes home and auto. And I know you know people in the home and auto insurance industry, and that's the goal, right? As much coverage, cheap as possible, cover your ability to earn an income, cover your life, home and auto, and cover healthcare, right? So if you don't have it through work, which as self-employed people we don't, you got to cover that, right? Because those costs could be catastrophic. They really can. And I mean, if you never use it, okay, but I mean, if you take 3 to 5% of your income every year and use it to protect the other 95, it's smart math.
Once you know somebody who's gone through kind of an event. So my brother-in-law was working in the States. He was in a motorcycle accident. Now, he does have insurance coverage through his work, so he's kind of safe. But when we saw what his hospital bills would be, because he was actually at 2 hospitals. At one, they transferred to him another one, and then they put him back to the other one. We're talking something like $360,000 for
that's it. See you later, house.
And it's like, and I mean, depending on, and that like, sure, if you go to a hospital in Canada, that's you're not going to end up with that bill, but you could end up with, but like there's other costs. But there's also other things that aren't necessarily covered, right?
Well, your loss of income's not covered.
Right.
So, I mean, most people, if they're, everything's allocated somewhere, and even if they go down to say 80% of their income, that 20% is a massive hit. If they go down to 50% of their income, it's huge, devastating. Again, lose the house. If you go down to 0, goodbye, right? You're looking at community housing, right? So, I mean, this is not...
Which is really not even existent.
No, right? Like good luck. Well, wait 10 years, so go live with relatives or be a
or
burden
under a bridge
or something, right? Whatever, right? So, I mean, these are things that happen, and we see it in the industry quite often. So, step 4, protect your money. Protect everything. And it's not, free. People have this idea. It's like, well, I'm paying this sucks. Like, you also buy your water and, you need that, right? So, I mean,
they haven't figured out how to charge us for oxygen yet, though.
Probably one day. That's how we'll get rid of the deficit. That's what we'll do, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So insurance, step 5 is actually investing. The 5th step. Kind of funny, eh? Like step 5, you get to investing where it's, you figure out.
Well, that's the surplus.
That's the surplus.
I guess, right? That's the surplus. So it doesn't, I mean, it makes sense.
But you don't get to step 5, like if you
gotta get
you lost your house at 40 because your husband died and didn't have life insurance. Like you're not going to retire. So you get the other things in place, and now we can talk about the sexy thing, investing. Right? So investing 15% of your income, working up to that, thinking about company matches if that's applicable to you, which is not to us, but a lot of people it is. And understanding government benefits and understanding the basic deficit in terms of our lives with government benefits, where counting on those to be everything for you is not smart. So, I mean, understanding that. And I mean, the way I look at, it's my money, but it's kind of like free money because I'm like, okay, I'm going to plan that it's not going to be there. Oh, great. Now I get OAS and CPP. Thank you. Right? Give me my money. Thank you.
And really, I guess when you look at it, it's not huge.
No. I mean, if you get maximum in both, you're looking at $21K a year. So, I mean, if you're carrying a mortgage, $21K a year, you're done. Right? You're done. You're toast. Right? So, and that's if you get the maximum. Most people don't. And then the last 2 steps are remarkable retirement, where you actually start looking at taking advantage of opportunities. Step 6, where you're going back and you're looking at your insurance coverage and maximizing that to its highest potential, where it's like, okay, I'm going to pay a little bit more for it, but I'll get all my money back in retirement, right? When you're starting off, you want to get the base level of coverage, but when you actually, okay, I've built a surplus, I'm saving for retirement, now I can look at the coverages I have, let's get this money back. It's going to cost me a bit more, but I'll get it back, right? And now you're looking at legacy estate, right? So you're like, okay, how am I going to...
That's like the holy grail.
That's the holy grail. Step 6 and 7 is where you're like, remarkable. This is, I got everything in place. Let's start looking at how I can take advantage of opportunities, and then possibly leaving a legacy to the people I love. And
what percentage of people you think hit that legacy mark?
5 to 10 at best. Yeah. 5 to 10 at best. I mean, the average Canadian...
Because it's literally it's a 70-year game.
Oh, for sure, right? Yeah. For sure. But you put the stones in place, like what you're talking about right now, like when you have your house and you have their solar panels and all this stuff, like this house is your transition piece to housing for your whole life, but it's also a valuable asset you can leave to the next generation.
Yeah.
A very, very valuable and a valuable tax-free asset you can leave to the next generation. So that's where it's like, okay, now you're actually taking advantage of the small pieces you put in place over the course of your whole life. And yeah, it can be funky. I'm talking to my dad about that right now. Like his plans of all the stupid things I thought he did when he was younger and growing up and how it was. And now I'm like, oh, that's why he did it. But yeah, so all that's out there, right? But those 7 steps, try to keep it as simple as possible. And that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What other advice do you have for people?
People in general?
Yeah.
Don't care too much what anyone else thinks. That's the big thing. I notice, like...
I say that to my wife a lot.
Yeah. It's. I mean, we all do. Yeah. I mean, I care. Like,
you have to.
When you like my IG post, I like that Matt liked it, or vice versa, right? Yeah, Matt said that, right? Yeah. But like, ultimately, the big thing about it, like, none of that really means much.
Yeah.
I mean, your own success is predicated on how hard you work and what you do and the steps you put in place. I have clients that, some of them are skipping trips with friends because they're like, oh, you know what? Let's just chill for a year, and next year we'll take the trip or whatever. And
like you're like, I want to get rid of that debt, or let's top up our retirement.
Or something like that. Whatever. But then I have other ones that are like, well, like the friends will be like, it's a group of 10 of us and we go every year. And it's like, well, yeah, it's going to suck without you this year, but you'll go next year. Yeah. And they're still your friends.
Well, they're not going to disappear. I mean,
no, they're not. And if they do, then
okay,
they're pieces of crap anyway, right? Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, that's a different conversation. But yeah, focus on the things that make your life better. And I mean, you see a lot of that and it gets all gushy and stuff and whatever, but like actually really focus on it. Like, and that's my biggest worry with myself. Mm-hmm. It really is. Am I focusing on the things that are like the things that I want to do in my life and will make my life better? So
how do you keep focused then? What do you do? Like
it's tough.
You just Post-it notes on your wall when you wake up.
I got a lot of Post-it notes everywhere, right? But no, nothing like that. It's more of like you just...
I know people who do that.
I do that. Well, you mean something, or like you're the man, Joe, like post it on the fridge.
I've met people who have like laminated stuff hanging in their shower.
Wow. Interesting.
That's trying to be focused.
Whatever works.
Yeah,
man.
And that's it. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that to judge or like poke fun or anything. It's just like... That's like real deal.
Well, what I would love if I was some sort of robot where I could like work got done and then time to not work was sort of like scheduled, and then when they pull the switch and the assembly lines, everything turns off, and would be my life though. But it'd be like
that's tough.
It's tough. Especially in our industries, right?
Yeah,
when you're self-employed, it's tough.
No. I mean, we have benefit, like working as a team. You have benefits in the sense where, I mean, if I'm on vacation, you forward your calls, and like Dale Cam covers it. Like you know what I mean. There's those aspects, but it's hard to make that happen on a day-to-day.
Of course.
I always try, like 95% of the time, I'm home for dinner.
Yep.
That's my one thing. It's just like, no, just like...
And that's the old school European in you. Yeah.
It's like sometimes, like for whatever reason, you just can't make it work or whatever. But I do like to just be home for dinner. And then it's like home for dinner, and then it's go out afterwards. Don't get me wrong. There's some days you have to skip it just for whatever reason.
Yep.
But... that's kind of like the one thing. The one part, though, that I always wonder is if you really could say to clients, sorry, no, this 3 hours, I will never respond to you because I'm with my family.
You're not at that point yet?
I don't. Well, so I'm going to throw this out there. I think as human beings, we all say yes, you can do it.
Yeah, but
I think we're actually lying to one another.
Yep.
Because we've been trained and conditioned for this instant gratification society that we're in. Yeah, I mean, these like
it's what it is.
I sent you a text. Like, why didn't you get back to me in 2 minutes? Like, I really do. And it's not our fault. It's not because we're bad people, but it's just like we've been conditioned to be this way, and it's like to wind that back.
It's difficult.
It's difficult.
It's very difficult. And I've been in my industry for almost 4 years now, and I'm like, okay, I'm only going to meet clients on these days. And then it always like, someone's like, oh, okay, I'm only available Sunday at noon. I'm like, but yeah, what am I going to say? Well, they're only available that day, right? And I technically can make.
I mean, why would they lie?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like they probably don't want to meet me on a Sunday either, right? But but at the same time, it's the kind of thing where I'm like, well, right? So. And especially in our industries where we're just looking to, kind of make people happy. I mean, ultimately, I break down what we do, 3 things, transparency, education, and service, right? You got to be transparent, especially my industry. You got to be very transparent.
You guys are facing a lot more legislation
There's a lot of pullback on that, and a lot of the old guards fighting that. And I mean, for me, it's like, here. What I make, show me. Yeah, this is it.
I mean, you have to earn an income.
Yeah, and that's a given, right? And people know that, right? But I'm not, I'm not here for the goodness. Yeah, I try and help as much as possible, but I also, I'm no good to you if I'm starving, right? Yeah. But I'm like, I'm like the bum financial corner or guy in the corner, and I'm like, oh, here, want some stock advice? Like, no, it's not going to work that way. But and that's why the education comes out, right? So if you're transparent and you teach people, and then service. Once they're your client, you service, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's the big thing. But the service part can be demanding. I mean, I've gotten messages at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Like,
I've answered my cell phone at. I had one client call me. I think it was just after 1 a.m, and I answered the phone, and he's just like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, you called? Yeah, but why are you up? I'm like, I'm in my office at home. I'm doing paperwork. My phone's sitting here. It rang. I'm assuming something's going on, right? And it's funny because he's like, I was just going to leave you a voicemail because I'm bummed we didn't get the house. Oh. And I was like, well, and I just said, well, it's great. Like, we talked about it. Yeah. You weren't, you knew we were competing. You were fully aware. We talked about your absolute max. Whereas if somebody else offered $1,000 more, you wouldn't be upset. So you're not upset. It's because also there's that weird airy fairy side that some people say where I'm like, it just wasn't meant to happen.
Yeah. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be.
Just chalk it up to that. Yeah. And like the truth is, we did actually end up finding an amazing home that was spectacular. It wasn't the next day. It was, I think within a month. But you know
what? That's the education side of it. When you think about that's the service side, but it's also the education side. Like when you, Cam, your Monday market update yesterday, and it went a bit extended. You had, okay, Cam, what do we do to?
I got attacked by a bee.
Yeah, I saw that. That was funny. Yeah.
Can't stand bees.
Oh, it's bee season.
I know, it's awful.
But yeah, go sit on a patio. It's terrible. But yeah, Cam, get on your buying shoes. Yeah. Get these things in order. And then, you might lose that house, but you're going to get the one you want eventually. Yep. But you're not going to get it or you'll get it and it won't be right for you because you went in half-assed. Yep. Instead, you got all your ducks in a row. Okay, you didn't get this one, you'll get the next one or whatever, right? Yep. But only if you come into it prepared, and that's the education side of it. Yep. Right? And, I mean, realtors that do that kind of thing, where it's like, house, person, push. No, doesn't work. No, you're making a marriage, and you don't make a marriage off of a one night stand. Yeah, right. So
I'm sure some have, but
some
probably shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well.
Anyways. Yeah. All right, Joe, Budget Boss. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
Giving us your info. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Where can people find you? Just throw that out there. Where can people find you?
Budgetboss.ca. That's the website. I'm all over the socials. Everywhere. It's at Joe Budget Boss. So at Joe Budget Boss, IG, Twitter. Not on Twitter too much. It's too much of a Facebook.
It's too fast.
It's too much.
It's too fast.
If I need breaking news, I go to Twitter.
Yeah.
So Facebook, Instagram. I wouldn't go to LinkedIn for too much for me, but yeah. So
awesome.
It's a bit more chill there. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And you can shoot me an email at joe@budgetboss.ca.
Beautiful.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
Feel like it's been long overdue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers.